Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allah salah, Allah salah, Allah salah, Allah salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu. Wa a'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Ayyuhalladhina amanu tukatihi wala tamutunna lillahi wa antum muslimun. Ya ayyuhannasut taku rabbakumul ladzi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidatin wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa bata minhuma rijalan katsira wa nisaa wattaqullaha alladzi tasaaluna bihi warhama inna Allaha kana alaykum raqiba. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanut taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida yuslih lakum a'malakum wa yaghfir lakum dhunubakum wa may yuti'illaha wa rasulullaha faqad fazan azima. Amma ba'd. Praise be to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is nothing worshipped except Allah. He is the one, and Allah has no partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad is the servant and messenger. O you believe, fear Allah as you should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims. O mankind, fear your Lord, who created you from a single soul, and created from it his mate, and dispersed from both of them many men and women. And fear Allah, through whom you ask one another your mutual rights, and do not cut off the relations of the wombs. Indeed, Allah is an ever watcher over you. O you believe, fear Allah and speak the truth. He will lend you your deeds and forgive you your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has certainly attained a great achievement. Amma ba'd. Inna Khairul Hadithi Kitaballah wa Khairul Hadi Muhammadin wa Shurul Umuri Mutatharuha wa Kula Mutatatin Bida wa Kula Bidatin Dalala wa Kula Dalalatin Finnar. Indeed, the best hadith is the book of Allah, and the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the worst of matters are those innovated by the people, and every innovated matter is a bid'ah, and every bid'ah is astray, and every going astray is in the fire. Amma ba'd. I pray to Allah that He has forgiven us our sins from the last Jummu'ah to this one, and He will forgive us our sins from this one to the next. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another Jummu'ah at Al-Idrisi Academy. For those who are tuning in, and you're here for your first time, Al-Idrisi Academy is our home school, and we're in our third year of existence. So Jummu'ah is a part of the curriculum. Last week we had Jummu'ah. Did not record it. I call it in-house Jummu'ah. So at my discretion, these Jummu'ahs will be recorded or they won't be recorded if I feel that I wanted to go in-house with it. So we want to welcome back everybody, that's tuning in, that we're tuning to our channels, either Imam Halim Mustafa El Bay channel or the Moorish Awakening channel on YouTube. And, and then of course we upload, the Khutbahs on Facebook, on the Islamic Mission Among American Moors, or one of the other groups, Moorish Village, Moorish Global Village Forum, or the Moorish Indigenous Heritage page as group as well. This Khutbah is going to be part 3 of American Destiny versus Fantasy. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahim. For every nation there is a term. So when their term has come, they will not remain behind an hour, nor are they preceded. I mean, they cannot extend it an hour, or they can't hasten it, for an hour. To understand America's destiny, you must understand America's true past. See, everything that Allah has created goes right back to His nature. Again, we have expressed that, we come from Allah, we return to Allah. And our bodies go back into the dirt because that's where it comes from, the soil. And our souls go back into the heavens, and that's because that's where that comes from. You have a whole bunch of ancient cities that they're uncovering from the forests. I mean, the forests were there first, and then they built these cities to clear the forests, and then once the cities were abandoned, the forest took it back over. So everything returns back to its nature. So I wanted to go into a little bit about the true American past. I wanted to read something out of this book called American Holocaust, The Conquest of the New World, by David E. Stannard. Where he says that it's gone now, drained and decimated in the aftermath of the Spanish conquest. But once there was an interconnected complex of lakes high up in the Valley of Mexico that was as long as and as wide as the city of London is today. Surrounding these waters, known collectively as the Lake of the Moon, were scores of towns and cities whose population, combined with that of the outlying communities of central Mexico, totaled about 25 million men, women, and children. On any given day, as many as 200,000 small boats moved back and forth on the Lake of the Moon, pursuing the interests of commerce, political intrigue, and simple pleasure. So we understand that the past that they try to say America was of like native tribes going back and forth, nomadic tribes, and no one really had any set land or anything. But that goes in the face of what we see, especially we know in Mexico, we know of the pyramids and the structures. Last time we mentioned about those societies that were associated with Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, that they were the so-called Olmecs, the Mayas, and the Aztecs, and then we found that they were actually geoglyphs that were up in what is now called Canada, that they marked the land, that these were up in Canada. And we find that these people, probably their whole civilization may have came from the north and went into the south and settled there. But we also had in the United States, what's called the United States, there was a place that is called Cahokia. Cahokia is near St. Louis. He said this site is a pre-colonial Native American city which existed, they said, circumventing about maybe 1,050 years to 1350 CE. And it said directly across from the Mississippi, from modern St. Louis, Missouri, and across the Mississippi, This historic park lies in southwestern Illinois between East St. Louis and Collinsville, and it's at its apex, which they figure would be around 1100 CE. Right? Um, Cahokia covered about 6 square miles, 16 kilometers, and included about 120 man-made earthen mounds in a wide range of sizes, shapes, and functions. At this time, the apex of its population, it may have briefly exceeded the contemporaneous London, which at the time was approximately from 14,000 to 18,000 people. Cahokia was the largest and most influential urban settlement of the Mississippi culture, which developed advanced societies across much of what is now central and southeastern United States, beginning with 1,000 years before European contact. Today, Cahokia Mounds are considered to be the largest and most complex archaeological site north of the pre-Columbian cities in Mexico. So we understand that there were complex cities all throughout the Americas, well before before Columbus and those invaders came over. So we wanted to talk about the the history of the invasion at the time and what the invasion did to America, as we see it today. Everything that we just had the Thanksgiving, for example, and for the native tribes, of course, it is a day of mourning, especially for I believe the Wampanoag that were directly affected from the Pilgrims. It's a day of mourning. So we know that 1492 was a year of disaster for the people of of our ancestors in this part of the globe. It was a time of disaster in 1492, and then all the successive invasions of sequential peoples. That it was a disaster for the Native American population. One thing the Europeans brought with them, and the reason why they came over here, is to seize the resources and use those resources as part of their commerce system. And their commerce system is a system that was based on, and we mentioned this in one of the early Khutbahs, in terms of a commerce system based on mass production, of using the resources and gaining enough of the resources, using up the resources to have masses of stuff. Whereas our ancestors largely had a type of relationship with a Mother Earth that we took what we needed and kind of left everything to itself. Whereas the type of economy that we've seen that the European invaders have brought, it's an economy that was based upon economy that they had in their land, in Europe. Now, it's not a white or black thing because on the throne of Europe were Moors. And I'm talking about Northern Europe. I'm not talking about the Moors that came up from Africa and then went into Spain and occupied Spain for almost 800 years. The history likes to love to talk about that. And these are the Moors and the ones that are there. But then the Moors, however, was not, as one brother says, is not a people. It was a description of people in general that were dark skinned. And a lot of them were still on the throne of Europe, going only until what we call the time of the American Revolution. So the type of system that they had was called a feudal system. The feudal system, on the top of the feudal system was the monarchy, the kings and the queens, right? The middleman of the feudal system was then your duchies and your counties. That's where you get the word duke and duchess from the duchies, and then you get count and countesses from counties. Today, we still have that here, where you have, your counties separated into your counties. In Louisiana, you have parishes. You still have some of these divisions. And at the bottom were the serfs. The serfs were just like what we would call the slaves. And when they came over into this land, they utilized that system. All the resources was going into the monarchy. The monarchy established, if you know, in terms of the invasion of European invasion of other lands, like the Dutch had the Dutch West Indian Company. It was a company that was chartered the land to use the land, and all the government soldiers and stuff was used to provide protection for the corporation. And this is very important to understand that. The British had the East Indian Company, which they controlled India and they controlled South Africa. And over here, I don't know exactly what the name of the company was here, but it was a company, and those companies were ran by the monarchy. They were ran by the kings and the queens. Okay, those were the head. So the type of system that they had, they brought within indentured service, and not all indentured service were pale skinned from Europe. Some of them were dark skinned, and they were boats of dark skinned indentured service, mainly dark skinned ones that came over into the Americas. So we understand also that the Native Americans, the people that were here, the Aboriginal Americans, was also dark skinned people, and that's all in their records. So again, a dark-skinned Aboriginal person is a Moor. So we will use the term Moor when they're describing the dark-skinned people. And regardless of where you come from on the planet, you're still a Moor. M-U-U-R. So going into those corporations, when we, and this is what we study, we're just not studying in school too, is that the colonists, dealing between the colonists and the corporation of the British Empire, was that the colonists wanted to run that corporation. Even during the time of the Revolutionary War, not everybody was down with the revolution. But you want to have those that so-called founding fathers. They wanted to head that corporation. They didn't want the resources to go into the British Crown. They're saying it was taxation without representation, that they were being taxed by the British, but they had no representation by the British. So they wanted to control those resources, and then that's where the war took place. So once the colonists gained control of the resources, and then that's when the United States was established. That's why I say the United States, and other people said this is a corporation. It's a corporation that is there to exploit the resources of America. That's why it's the United States of America, as opposed to the American United States. So when we look at that, and this series is dealing with the actual truth about the American past, and knowing that the America is going back to its past, Allah is returning America back to the way it was before Columbus came, before that invasion came. So we understand that Allah says in the ayat I read that every nation has its term. In the United States as a nation, I'm not hoping for the destruction or advocating the destruction of the United States. All I'm saying is the truth in terms of what Allah has already decreed. And we read the scriptures last time, and concerning what would happen to the United States. It doesn't mean America is going to disappear. America will still be there. America's gone through so many transformations for eons. And there's been different nations here. There's over thousands of nations that were here, at the time the European or the Colombian invasion happened. Because there were Europeans here before Columbus, like the Vikings, there was this an Irish monk that came about 500 CE, and his followers, and they were called the Welsh Indians. They came to know as the Welsh Indians, and they were hunted down and killed by the invaders. So it's not. Again, I say it's not a black and white thing at all. One thing we look at the American foundation, and the foundation that we see that is built upon something that is not natural. It's not natural to take the resources and utilize it and have like greed and taking more than what you need and holding on to that and not giving it to those, or having it make sure it's redistributed to those who actually need it. But having it, hoarding it, and having a price and saying if you need this, like water, now we got to pay for water. Water was something that's all over the place, and we were able to to drink the water, and now we have to buy it in a bottle from the spring. That's a natural right of a human being to have water. It's a natural right of a human being to have good food. You don't have to have food that's been poisoned, that has chemicals in it, so you can preserve it. That's not natural. But to grow our own food in soil that's not polluted by insecticides and things like that. We've been doing this for millions of years. And also, there's been certain technologies in terms of the agriculture, and blending, or doesn't, like tomatoes used to be like small as grapes, but they in the ancient times they was able to take the tomato, and the tomato could be about this big. So GMO and everything, that's a natural thing to actually modifying your food source and doing variations that man has made in the ancient times. So that's not, so the issue is to getting back to that natural thing that we used to do. So we understand that the foundation that created the United States is an incorrect foundation. And I know it's hard for people to hear that, but it's an incorrect foundation. And just like if you build a house, if the foundation is bad and you continue to build a house and build the house up, the house will eventually fall and eventually collapse. Because you can build up all you want. If the foundation is wrong, it's going to collapse. So this is what I'm saying, that the foundation was wrong. It was built off of a commerce that exploited people resources as well. Exploited the natural resources that we depend upon for our living. So basically, and it's a different, we go to the modern times and the Federal Reserve, so that's probably a whole different topic. But that is, what the Federal Reserve do is produce money. Of course, the money you have debt. So every single time you have $1, you owe back $2. So we have a whole system of debt. Okay. So basically, I'm going to end the first part of this khutbah by saying, Aqulu Kali Hadha Wastaghfirullah li lakum. I say these words of mine and ask Allah forgiveness for me and for you. So again, like Alhamdulillah wa salatu ala Rasulullahi wa ala ali sahabihi wa man wala. Praise be to Allah who sends countless blessings upon the Messenger of Allah, his family, his companions, and onto their followers. So basically, and that's what this series is about. When we terms of talking about the Islamic mission among American Moors, and that is not something that people, because joining his followers or anything, but something that is giving out information. It's a program of the Indigenous Muslim American Moors Society, which we are. This is Muslim American Moors, and that's what we are. So it's something that we give out the information, give the information of truth, nothing based upon fantasy or myth, but based upon simple truth. And anything that we research, we could research and even the things to put out there. For example, I spent 4 decades in a Pan-African community and expounding the African identity and things, only to find out during research that we're not Africans. For the most part, we're not. Some of us our ancestors come from Africa. Most of us did not. We understand that the slaves that they took were mainly from South America and the Caribbean. They took slaves from here when they defeated them and took and put them into either the Caribbean or Europe or Africa. So we were told the whole entire history wrong. So you want to straighten out all of that mess that we have been taught. So I know personally it took me probably more energy to unlearn things than to learn things. So that's what we want to do. We want to research, and we want to research the proper information, because the proper information allows you to make the proper decisions. If you have the improper information, you will make the improper decisions. You put your time and energy into something, either you're going to put your time and energy into something that actually exists, which is true, or you're going to put your time and energy in something that doesn't exist, which is a fantasy. So this is why we have America Destiny versus fantasy. The destiny of America is what America truly is. And the fantasy is something that we have been taught that has nothing to do with actually what happened. When we look at the economy, especially the economic system, we want to discuss the economic system of Al-Islam, which is based upon zakat. Zakat is a word that means purity. Zakat is 2.5% of somebody's wealth. So if you are wealthy, or if you are rich, or you have enough money that you have to spend 2.5% of your wealth, which is very little of your wealth, to those who are less fortunate. So you have a system that is set up for that to happen, when people are distributing that wealth, collecting and distributing that wealth. And largely today is done through the masjids. In a true Islamic government, that would be the system. Also, we have zakat. We just giving in charity, just any amount. Now, the thing about the zakat comes from the word. This is called the sadaqah. That you give in any amount that you could give. Sadaqah comes from the word sadiq, or sadiq meaning truth. So, in one sense, giving money purifies your wealth, purifies your soul, and is the truth. The truth, if you have more, you give to someone that has less. This is as opposed to the type of society or the type of government they live in, that we're always continually paying fees, continually paying to the rich to make them richer. And of course, the saying is, in this society, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And like I said, it's not a question of black and white. It's a question of economics and right and wrong. The right economics, the rich would give to the poor. So anybody that has less can enjoy this life as well. The wrongness is when the rich takes from the poor and then make themselves enriched. For example, back in the 80s, before Reagan, the millionaires, the people that were millionaires, they were millionaires. After Reagan, the millionaires became the billionaires. Those were billionaires became the billionaires. They're getting richer and richer and richer. And people are finding it harder and harder, especially during this time of the pandemic, finding it harder and harder, to make ends meet. I mean, if you were in trouble before the pandemic and you lost your job because of it, you're in deep trouble now. So inshallah, Allah does make the abundance of whom He pleases, straighten the means of whom He pleases. So, we pray to Allah for our survival. And we are all descendants of survivors. Whether it be natural catastrophe like the flood, we're all survivors from the people who survived the flood. We're survivors of people who survived the massacres that was placed upon us in acts of genocide. So alhamdulillah, we're survivors. I'm saying this is all the way across the board, all the way across for every people. So inshallah, we're gonna end this Khutbah here, and with this surah, because in Islam everything is universal. And just want to mention that in Islam you don't have to give up all of your wealth. Allah says don't give up all of your wealth. Because you're going to need that to take care of your family. So you're not going to give up all of your wealth, but you give a portion of it, a small portion of it, to help those who are in need. So I'm going to end with this section in Suratul Araf, and Suratul Araf means the sandhills, and it's the 46th surah of the Quran. Hameen. The revelation of the book is from Allah, the Mighty, the Wise. We did not create the heavens and the earth, and what is between them two, save with the truth and an appointed term. And those who disbelieve turn aside from what they are warned of. Say, have you considered what you call besides Allah? Show me what they have created of the earth, or have they a share in the heavens? Bring me a book before this, or traces of knowledge if you are truthful. And who is greater in error than he who calls besides Allah upon those that will not answer him till the day of resurrection, and they are heedless of their call? And when men are gathered together, they shall be their enemies and shall be deniers of their worshiping them. And when our signs are recited to them, those who disbelieve will say with regard to the truth, when it comes to them, this is clear magic. Nay, they say he has forced it. Say, if I have forced it, you do not control anything for me from Allah. He knows best what you utter concerning it. He is enough as a witness between me and you, and he is the forgiving, the merciful. Sadaqallahu Azim. Any benefits you receive in this Khutbah is from Allah and Allah alone. Any mistake, errors, or omission is from me and me alone. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita Ibrahim ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma barik Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta Ibrahim ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. O Allah, send your prayers upon Muhammad and upon the family of Muhammad as you sent prayers upon Ibrahim and upon the family of Ibrahim. You are indeed worthy of praise, full of glory. O Allah, send blessings upon Muhammad and upon the family of Muhammad as you sent blessings upon Ibrahim and upon the family of Ibrahim. You are indeed worthy of praise and full of glory. And we will do this. Grab that. Atana fi dunya hasanatan wa akhirati hasanatan qina adhaban amin. Allah forgive us. Allah grant us the good in this world and the good in hereafter, and save from the punishment of the fire. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. Tafadhal wa inkram. Ameen. Allah, you are the source of peace, and when you comes peace, as all of you are Lord of majesty and honor. Allahumma gafili wali daya wali uzadi jamil mukminina wa mukminati wa muslimi wa muslimati bi rahmatika ya rahimin. Ameen. Oh Allah, forgive me and my parents and my teachers and the believing men and believing women, all the Muslim and all Muslims, it's your mercy, or most merciful those who have mercy. Allah, we have wronged ourselves and you do not forgive us and have no mercy on us. Surely you be up to the losers. Ameen. You can come to Salah. That's how long you'll see saying. Intention to offer Suratul Jummu'ah. Truth as far as for the pleasure of Allah. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Malik Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdini siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Anything the Kakata said when Hunt Shelly Akalapta. Allahu Akbar. Seven on the Omida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Malik Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdini siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Qul Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu ahad. Allahu Akbar. Seven on the Umida. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.